it's a very, very important step to bridge the business between US and India. And as for Dr. Mark Burns, I think he's in this. I want your attention because India today, we're talking about trillions of dollars economy. One of the main industries which has created that economic activity is the IT industry. Before IT industry, we were not having that kind of opportunities in India. That's where US has played a significant role. Our largest trade partner as far as the IT services were concerned, because of the US help, India is able to come to this position. We really want to thank US government and all the organizations who supported Indian IT industry right from 80s onwards. Since he has asked me how the scenario was before President Clinton visited Hyderabad, so during that time, in fact, one step before, we were not having any internet in Hyderabad, no IT companies in Hyderabad. Hyderabad was full of rocks and boulders. It was in, I'm talking about in 90s. The way we developed the city, step by step, brick by brick, and that two important things which happened to make Hyderabad the Silicon Valley of India. One was Microsoft taking a decision to set up the only development center outside of Seattle, so to set it up in Hyderabad. So that was the major step towards Hyderabad to become Cyberabad and all that. The second one, Hyderabad those days was not having any visibility. In fact, I used to go and market Hyderabad to from multinational companies in US. They were asking me, Hyderabad, is it in Pakistan? There is a Hyderabad in Sindh province in Pakistan that was more popular than the Hyderabad in India. During that time I was talking. But when President Clinton came here, in his, along with his all the media personnel and all that, Hyderabad got global visibility. All the Wall Street, CNN, everybody was talking that President Clinton is in Hyderabad. He has got a driving license from E-Seva Center. He has given a talk at High Tech City. All that visibility, the branding for Hyderabad happened during the President Clinton's visit. I think from then onwards, I have seen multinational companies from United States to come and set up the development centers. Today, we have more than 500 US multinational companies already set up there, and more companies are coming here. And we want to really continue this journey between India and US, particularly Dr. Mark Burns. Today, we are talking about AI era. In the AI era, only two countries have got a large number of data sets, India and China. But China, not many startups can go to China and access the data. But a lot of US startups are looking towards India. They've got the technology, they got all the tools and all the AI tools, but they don't have enough data. Whereas India has got a large number of data sets in the healthcare, e-governance, and various other areas, even agriculture and all that. That's where now I am seeing plethora of the startup companies from Silicon Valley. They want to come and set up and access the data from India, and they want to set up the startup companies in the generative AI era. I think this area where, I mean, with your cooperation, we should have a time-bound action plan. How India and US, maybe as a Hyderabad as a model, and probably US GCI can be a partner in that journey. And every quarter under your chairmanship, if you can monitor how you are helping the Indian startups located here, at the same time how we are helping the startups from Silicon Valley or from US, how we are able to provide the market access. That is a great journey in this generative era. This is my request to you, Dr. Mark Burns.
Thank you, sir, and thank you very much for filling. I believe it comes among the top 10 CDMO in India. Okay, and I would request you to give a lot of insights. And this particular session is going to be a true a true mix. I'll also bet you that the best to best people you get in this world, there's a best panel. I think maybe few people skipped, but that's going to really energize this particular hall. And here comes the healthcare leader, Dr. Srinivas, who leads the Apollo Medskill, and which is more towards employability. He is up close to, if I'm not wrong, 30 years of experience. You've been bridging India and US business, and I would like to hear first. Dr. Srinivas. Okay, Dr. Srinivas. Okay. Where are we? Okay. A question which is pretty much to my heart, and it's good that J. Chowdary Garu also can validate this. Dr. Srinivas' business brings employability towards the healthcare professionals. 30 years back, a few people like Jigaru, including many others, they went about making this India as an IT hub. You are sitting in healthcare professionals, okay? So, need not to tell Apollo Hospital, which is a benchmark when it comes to IT adoption, when it comes to the first corporate hospital, JCI accreditation, endless good things about it. You employ. Okay, so my question would be that what you feel that what is required that healthcare professionals could be the
on which the healthcare as a sector runs. Yes, high-tech developments are happening in healthcare, but healthcare is still high-touch. When I say high-touch, you still need a interaction of a doctor with the patient. You still need a assurance, reassurance, a tap on the back. You still need to check the pulse. You still need to interact with the patient extensively. So when I said healthcare runs on 5 pillars, these 5 pillars there are administrative cycles. Okay, you see a front office, you see a security guard in the hospital, then you have the marketing management, you have sales, you have every department of administrative cycles within the hospital. That's the first pillar. And there is a significant amount of employment generated in the administrative cycles of the hospital. The second cycle, which everyone knows and everyone has got an experience of, is a clinical cycle. So when I say clinical cycles, you have an emergency room, particularly when there are emergencies, right? When then you have the nursing services, the pharma services, then you have ICUs, intensive care units, ambulances. So these are the clinical services in the hospital. The third cycle is a quality cycle. In the quality, most of the hospitals, so now healthcare is not spared on quality. So even a hospital should have a quality accreditation. If you buy an oil packet, you see an ISI mark or an UG mark, right? So every hospital is also now validated by standards. And here comes again USGCI standard, Joint Commission International Standards of US are considered gold standard in accreditation of hospitals now. And thankfully, almost 60 of our hospitals have JC accreditation today across India, the largest group to have so many JC accreditations. The fourth cycle is the financial cycles. Again, if you see, the financial cycles of US are managed in India. The complete revenue cycle management services, the payer provider services, the medical coding services, the medical billing services, most of them, as Mr. Suresh has mentioned, that when the ambulance is actually rushing towards an emergency room in New York, then the billing is actually happening in Hyderabad. Yes, in India. So there is a lot of work that is happening in the synergy. The reason I'm explaining across cycles is, yes, everywhere there's synergy. Of course, technology cycles, the electronic medical records, I think US has led the way by the High-Tech Act. The EMRs have been adopted extensively in US, and the same is happening in India now. There's a lot of technology adoption happening because the data is now important even in healthcare. So digitalization of medical records and so on. So then integrating this across all these 5 cycles, the administrative cycles, the clinical cycles, quality, financial, and the technology cycles, you need manpower across each of these areas. Okay, so can a doctor become an engineer? Yes. If GE is producing an ECG machine in US, and the PQRST waveforms have to be validated, because as doctors we blindly see the ECG and say that this patient has got a heart attack, or this patient does not have, right? So who is validating that ECG waveforms on the ECG machines of GE or Siemens or Philips Healthcare? It is being validated by doctors. It is validated by special clinical experts. These are called SMEs. If they're IT professionals, you have agile methodologies, so we fit as SMEs there. So briefly, this is the answer, but I think I'll add more. Yes.
I'll do one thing, sir. I'm going to spice up, because I know this all 4 verticals very well, and you'll see that you'll fit in better. Okay, just let's spice up with a question which builds the entire context. Mr. Suresh Kochattil, my question to you, very much from my heart, is why President Trump is doing what is he doing?
For whatever 38 years now, I've never seen a tectonic shift in policies in just about 60 days. In 60 days, the world has changed, like it or not. You see the Ukraine-Russia war. You see the Israel-Palestine-Gaza. You see the trade war between Canada and US, which does not even have a fencing across its border, huge border. The battle with Mexico, the obvious business battle with China, and with EU. I mean, I remember at one time, somebody asking, is Paris burning? That was Hitler, I think. But the question now is, US is doing the same thing to EU. In just about 60 days, to balance $31 trillion of debt, which is a huge debt that US has accrued, it's going to take a humongous amount of effort to balance that entire deficit, which is what they got Doge, they got every other bit, shut down the Department of Education yesterday, holding back funds from universities like Columbia because of the woke culture that is there in the US. President Trump is signing executive orders by the dozen every day, and that huge signature of his, it's become very legendary now. But what I've observed, because I keep reading, I go to a lot of news debates every day, and the only question which most parents sitting in the Telugu-speaking states ask is, how are my children going to be impacted? The ones who are there and ones who are going to study there. It's very important to realize suddenly that everybody is deleting their social media accounts, because they would at some point in time abused some American president, politician, industry or something, and now when you arrive at a US airport, your social media account has been tracked. They know. Even at issuing a visa, for example, the American consulate in Hyderabad, I know when Dr. Burns will have a time to go and look at it, it's one of the biggest in India. Huge, massive. And the kind of application they deal every day, there is a 35% drop in visa applications this year. Now that's worrying for Indian students who wanted to go to US. But we should put a question up there. It's not easy. It's very tough situation for a nation to be in. Prime Minister Modi handled it very well. I don't know how many of you know that Piyush Goyal, our Commerce Minister, went to US 2 weeks ago, despite all the commitments that he had in India. Prime Minister Modi told him to sit put in Washington, speak to Commerce Secretary, speak to the Department of Commerce US, and for 1 week he was just talking trade. And he's a chartered accountant, so he knows what business is all about. Piyush Goyal was there, came back quietly. You haven't heard President Trump talking of April 2nd deadline for India. Harley Davidsons, Tesla cars, it's all okay. But pure trade, because India buys a lot of aircraft from Boeing. That is not reflected in the $126 billion trade that India has with US. We buy a lot of missiles from US. We buy the drones from the US. We buy the Globemasters, a huge aircraft, military aircraft from US. And now they have 35s on offer. Now, these are not a part of the trade. So the deficit that India has, a surplus deficit of $30 billion, which President Trump is talking about, does not have these factors in it. So it's an unwritten law that when you're speaking between the world's largest democracy and the oldest democracy, there are a lot of unwritten rules. You need to connect the dots somewhere. And that is what is happening. Unlike the Zelensky-President Trump-Vance meeting in the White House, which you saw resulted in a street-side brawl, what Mr. Modi and President Trump spoke, hardly anybody knew what was done except for
what they spoke in front of the camera. There are a lot of things that happen behind the scenes which you, me, or anybody cannot make sense out of. This is why opening comments, Vishi.
Well, thank you very much. So let's go back. Dr. Srinivas was talking exactly happening if you're watching in news, like why President Trump is doing what is he doing. Okay, and I believe they're doing right. Okay, country comes first. Now, my question is going to amalgamate between you both, and it will be going to J. Chowdary Garu. Maybe a year after COVID, okay, you told that there was a kind of research which was done among the engineering colleges for the Japanese companies. They were looking for some engineering students, and they didn't find the skill set people, and they went to Philippines. So with this background, I'm saying that healthcare professionals are also into the similar thing. Okay, our education, if it's not getting recorded, it's good. Most of the things are a bit outdated. We are not so-called digitally evolved in the curriculum. Okay, so how would, like, if let's go back to 20 years, at what magic you people did for IT, how it can be done for healthcare?
Yeah, I'll talk about see the right kind of manpower. Because what happened in the last 30-40 years, India was focusing only IT related activities. Because of that, job opportunities were there only in IT. In every engineering college, particularly private engineering colleges and universities, they removed mechanical, they removed civil engineering, electrical, because there is no demand. And suddenly when manufacturing is coming to India, that shortage of manpower was a big issue. That's the reason why they could not set up the manufacturing facilities in India. Now India is gearing up. Now skill universities, even in Hyderabad, they're setting, every state is going for bridging the gap, hopefully in the next 3 to 4 years, because agility of the Indian industry, Indian government is very, very fast. I think we will be able to meet up to those expectations. I want to come back to this, Dr. Srinivas was just mentioning about healthcare AI. Yesterday, I was in Bangalore. I met a lot of startups who are into healthcare, providing the AI solutions. One startup company, in fact, he is a serial entrepreneur from Austin, Texas. He's already has got a listed company in NASDAQ, and he's invested in 2-3 AI companies in California. And I met him in Bangalore yesterday. I asked him, what is that you are doing? He said, sir, when I went to my village, a lot of farmers who are actually more than 50-60 acres of land they had, today they are all working in the construction side as beggars. I said, why they have become beggars? Sir, in their family, 1 or 2 people, they got terminal disease like cancer or heart attacks and all that. They went to Bangalore, some hospitals, and by the time the patient died or patient came back, whatever assets they had, they sold all those things, they took a lot of loans, and today they are on the roads. And like that, a lot of people are becoming beggars because of the healthcare costs are very high. And unlike in US, where everybody is insured and all that, here still a lot of gaps are there. And what he is trying to do, he wants to use his AI technology, and he wants to democratize quality in healthcare using AI. He is trying to create agentic AI doctors in the local languages, in Telugu, Kannada, various things, so that a common people sitting in the small village, they are able to access to the AI doctor, and the AI doctor agentic software also connects to the right doctor in the right cities and hospitals, and prototype is already ready. And that is the kind of thing which is happening between US and India. He's already a successful entrepreneur from Texas state. He is now setting up this thing, solving the India's healthcare problems in the rural India. He is now trying to democratize quality healthcare using the AI technology. That kind of a thing is happening. It's a great synergy between, again, India and US.
Sure. So that reminds me a book called, written by Michael T. Bosworth. I believe when he came 22 years back, he told the world is flat, which went about outsourcing here. So we won't use the word outsourcing. I'll try to limit that. Okay. So now let's try to get two more experts who are there. Okay. So I'll go with this question now to Dr. Solomon, based on your experience, a ground level experience, which I would really like. See, we are focusing from an IT sector, the kind of remote work and the hybrid model which has come. Okay. And the hybrid model, people are working from home. There's a nearshore opportunities that mean the people are highly skilled in Mexico and the nearby countries of US. Okay. And what is required for the survival of the traditional IT hub like Hyderabad and Bangalore required, according to you?
Attending a workshop on AI. It was houseful. More than 300 people and 100 of them sitting on the floor, and a paid session. And one of the things I learned, I just went as a media person to understand how ChatGPT works. And I came out with the realization that there is more than ChatGPT, because there is something called cloud, which is CLAUD. There is Copilot that is there from Microsoft. I mean, you look at Chrome and you see Copilot working with it. Cloud gives you, I can put election-related data. I did that on a live session there at IIT. Put a screenshot of Shalimar Bagh constituency in New Delhi over 3 elections with 9 candidates, 3 each from Aam Aadmi Party, BJP and Congress. And within 5 seconds, I got a complete dashboard with a pie diagram, with a bar graph, with a line graph and a text. 5 seconds. And this is something that you see Arnab Goswami and others doing it on television, which cost lakhs and lakhs of rupees. One thing I've learned, and from the professors there at IIT, is that there is no threat of losing jobs. It is actually a oxymoron that way. There is somebody who has to teach the AI machines how to work, especially when you're prompting it. What questions we ask is called prompt. The training that goes into developing these AI-based models is very important. We need trainers. It's like teaching a child how to learn the alphabets, and then graduating to words, then sentences, and then paragraphs, and then a page. Nobody's losing their jobs. It is just that you need to reskill yourself to get into that. And that part is what China did with DeepSeek. They used less of computing power. They didn't have that much of NVIDIA chips. But what they did was they trained the system so well that it responded. But when you ask it what happened at Tiananmen Square, it doesn't answer. As simple as that.
Sure. So my question now next is to Mr. Khurana, to you. But since I'm a moderator, I need to tell something. I need to also talk, right? AI is as good as its master. The robot is as good as its master. So till the master is skillful, he will not lose a job. Okay. So Mr. Khurana, and also got a message that we see people are deviating. People are getting into AI. Track में लोगों को लेके आओ. ठीक है. The question to you is that I'm getting old, I guess. I can't read it. How will the regulatory changes in US, such as an example of drug pricing policy, impact the Indian generic exports? Because you quite extensively work in that domain. So my question again is, how will regulatory changes in the US market, which is happening, especially let's take it with the drug pricing, is going to impact the Indian generic business export?
Yeah. So as we all know, India and US are the major, we can say, pharma, like, giants, right? So they are depending on each other a lot, and there is a significant collaboration between India and US for pharmaceutical products. So when it comes to regulatory definitely impacts significantly to the any industry and basically pharma industry, because US FDA has its own very stringent compliances and regulatory policies which needs to be compliant by Indian drug makers and generic manufacturers. So this stringent and tighten, policies and, compliances, definitely, what happens, Indian companies need to, have to, buck up their, compliances, and they have to, spend a lot on the CGMP and, quality assurance things. So that increases, that increases their, pricing, and the cost increases for that. And compliances sometimes, stringent compliances are definitely, results into drug recalls and, warning letters to these manufacturers, which is very stringent and, which take them back, and they are not able to, do the business for supply and export these generics. So these are some of the things. And when it comes to pricing, if US decides that they need to go for onshore or offshoring of this pricing from Mexico, or they are within the country, then it is going to again hit the Indian manufacturers, and their revenues and their profit margins are going to squeeze. What I would say that US should try to push Indian local generics, generic products which are much cheaper and which can cater to US patients and market well within in a low cost with these low cost generics. So this is how regulatory impacts. And then there are certain things like called patents and laws related to patent laws, which are definitely needs to be eased out, and for biosimilars and let's say generic drugs and other APIs. If that happens, that Indian companies can come quickly into the market and launch the products faster, and that can help them to come forward.
Sure. Well, thank you. Now, it will be a pretty interesting question, which I'm going to put it forward to Suresh sir and the panel. Sir, will the increasing friendship between the president, we are $180 billion business today, and assuming that next 4 years we want to capitalize, and let's go with the benchmark of $500 billion, what is required to be done?
Yeah, I think that's where we are 126 billion to be being part. That is the defense contracts which you're speaking of, which is never disclosed in the public domain.
So how did I get to know about what?
Yeah, 180 billion is what was what President Trump spoke at the White House in the Oval Office that day. But if you look at it, it's a win-win situation for India and US, because the $50 billion can easily be balanced out. It all depends on the personal relationship between President Trump and the world leaders. Look at the body language. First had Benjamin Netanyahu, then we had the Japanese Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, and then of course the famous Zelensky encounter. Look at the body language. It was totally different. Each one, the way he was talking to him, holding Modiji's hands, saying he's a very tough negotiator. Everybody knows that Modiji, being a Gujarati, will negotiate like hell. But that is not the point. The point is, if you want to scale up from 160, 126 billion to 500 billion, the Indian trade also increases. And what do we sell to the US? Precious gems. We sell machine parts. We sell pharmaceuticals. It's a big business for us. So these business, even if you get impacted, where the calculation we did, a back of the envelope calculation, the impact on the Indian companies was something in the range of $6 to $7 billion, which we can handle. Not a big deal about it. Pharmaceuticals, even if you tax it, the US taxpayer is going to pay more for the medicines. It is not the Indian company which will pay for that. So it's everywhere the same thing. It all boils down to personal relationship. Today the world works on that. Let us understand, being a media guy, I'll tell you that it is purely how you talk to the other person. If you are, the Australian Prime Minister has been trying for an appointment with President Trump from last 1 month. President Trump refused to pick up the call from Albanese. He refused to pick up the calls. That gives a message. As I say in Hindi, समझदार को इशारा ही काफी है. That is what it is all about. You know him personally, pick up the phone and talk. If somebody like Trump can talk to President Putin for 2 hours, That shows how serious he is about ending that war in Ukraine. That's exactly the point. So today's world, we all sit in this room thinking business, we'll do this, we'll do that, AI, pharma, that, this, IT. It all boils down to how your chief executive of your country, which is your prime minister or head of state, whoever it is, tackles your business. Modi ji wants to make India great again. President Trump wants to make America great again. Everybody wants to make their nation great again. Today, any company, any country that goes abroad, the first thing they do is try and sell their products. So when Macron comes to India or invites Modi, he's talking Rafale. He's talking Dassault Aviation. He's talking other defense products. That's the world today. Let's realize when you step out of this room, please realize that all our jobs, all our business depend on how our head of state relates. And tomorrow, if you have somebody who cannot talk to President Trump or any other head of state who is very influential, then we are in deep trouble. But luckily, we are not in deep trouble today. And I'm sure Dr. Burns will talk about it because he deals with President Trump. How President Trump is, he's very cut straight, out to the point. He talks straight. This is what I'm going to do. And there's no getting away from that.
So, Dr. Srinivas, what kind of pie would you like to add it from healthcare?
Like both the Honorable Prime Minister Modi and Sir Donald Trump, their thought processes are so similar. We have started something called Atmanirbhar Bharat. Okay, so it's like making India great again, and the same thing. It's making self-reliant and making India great again indirectly, right? So it's a similar thought process that President Trump also has, making America great again. So there are a lot of similarities in the thought process of two leaders, and I'm sure with building manufacturing capabilities today, I think that is one of the challenges both the nations are facing. The internal manufacturing, to make America great again, you need to start building industries in your own country. The same is with India. I think we both are working on the similar pathways. I think semiconductors are one of the highest priorities for both the countries, and both of them are taking similar strides. And as Dr. Mark Burns said in his speech, if America is great again, then India is obviously great again. So I think these are some of they are working on similar lines. That's what I want to talk. And then just on the AI side, I think it's not AI that is going to take away jobs. I think non-skillfulness of AI, if you don't know how to use AI, then you are going to lose a job. So please start working on learning AI. So obviously no one will lose a job.
So Dr. Srinivas has got a great fan club there. Hey. Okay. And so let's give again a twist. Chowdary Garu. So do you see any threat from American companies which are going back? Either the manufacturing.
I don't think so. You want your question is American companies in India going back?
Do you see any threat from the American companies who are going back to US? In the manufacturing sector, you get to see that.
Manufacturing sector, I don't think there is a threat to India. Maybe threat to countries like China, maybe, because today most of the people they import from China, all the manufacturing is happening in China. If America is going to bring back the manufacturing, obviously some countries like China may be impacted, but India, we don't have the manufacturing facility so far. We have to depend on America.
Okay, sorry, this question didn't have that great variety, so I'll rephrase this. What strategies should Indian IT companies should adopt to remain competitive in this cloud-first world?
See, our strength is technology. India's strength is the manpower at scale. You've got so many premium institutions like IITs, IIITs and all that. Whereas the strength of America is R&D, innovation and all that. And India is a big market for all the American companies. For American product companies, time to market is very important. Today, whatever the new AI tools coming from China, so that's going to be a big threat for America if they're not able to use Indian resources and provide that kind of a product companies quickly into the market.
Something like Zoho.com.
So we have to collaborate. Two great nations, two great democracies, we have to collaborate so that both the countries will be benefited, and we're going to be, America is going to be great, India is also going to be great.
So what we get to see in the fintech sector and all, right? Innovations which are
Whatever is happening in fintech,
Yep.
that's one example.
classical
The
example.
same thing is going to happen in AI.
Yeah.
Healthcare AI and pharma AI, all these areas, it's great opportunities.
Yeah.
And for American product companies, time to market, if they delay it because of lack of manpower, lack of people, and lack of markets, and again, they'll also suffer. That's where, we have to collaborate.
Sure. So, Mr. Khurana, like we get to see a lot of GCC companies coming to India. Okay. And as per my understanding, the most of the GCCs are towards, again, the technology part of it. Okay. From a data perspective, designing of products. Okay. But in other way around, if you look at it, I'm talking from a drug discovery aspect. We got a beautiful pool of healthcare professionals. We got a great patient pool. Okay. Where do you think that the strategies are required to leverage that? Okay. Leverage that, giving this value proposition to GCC companies. Okay. Where do you think, being a pharma expert, and that too we spoke about generic, let's think from a novel drug discovery, India being a platform.
So, you see,
And what
India,
kind of pie we can get it in that $500 billion, which I'm demanding.
So I would say, India has a great potential. India has a great, scientific knowledge, and India is working a lot on, drug discovery. But I would say, there is still a gap. Okay, gap between, what India is doing in drug discovery and what US is doing in drug discovery. Whatever India is getting is a buy from US, right? So whatever US is, spending on drug discovery, drug development, or R&D. So India is just a partner in that, and just being a facilitator over there. They are not the pioneer and front runners in drug discovery. So that is a challenge. But at the same time, if I say India has a potential, if India starts its own, initiates its own drugs discovery and spend little more on spending on drug discovery and R&D, that can bring a lot of value addition in terms of this 500 million. Definitely is a big chunk, and India has a lot of potential to get it. So I think we are a bit way behind on that, but we need to gear up ourselves for that. Yeah.
Sure. So now, how we are going to have a little twist again back here. There are 5 experts here, and there are a few guests here from US. And after the session, we'll be having Ask Dr. Byrne, wherein you can give your messages. We'll be making a note of it, which will be vetted, validated, and presented to the White House. Now, the same thing, we guys are in the other end, so we may have to wait. Hum Qatar mein hai. So now you have a privilege. What is your question to the US with respect to improving the bilateral trade relation and all? From all your domain, you can put forward those questions specific. You can think, I'm going to make the note of it. Okay, say like I'm a representative, I'm going to make a note. So let's think what questions you have to ask us.
I have a request to Dr. Burns. For technology, knowledge industry point of view, visas are becoming a issue at this point of time. The H1 visas particularly and L1 visas, they are all legal visas. These people are required for American companies. A lot of American companies wants to have access to the Indian talented manpower. That's where, as advisor to Donald Trump, if you can actually take this message, it's going to be a win-win thing. Today, if you see Dr. Mark Burns, MRAs who went to USA, they actually created a lot of consumerism, a lot of economy, and they participated in the US economy. I think that's where we request you, if you can actually take it up with the President of US and see that this issue is not going to be critical going forward, bringing both technology giants to create global products for the world.
Absolutely. And, I can simply say this. The United States has always valued the talent pool that comes from India. It is not the desire 1.3 million engineers a year, whereas the United States of America produce only about 90,000 engineers a year. But the reality of it is between 40 to 60% of those engineers in the U.S. come from India. And so it is important that we, and the president knows this, Elon Musk knows this. I think our new CIO is from India. And then, of course, I'm so great. My dear friend Kash Patel is our new FBI director. And so, again, the president and the White House most definitely values the continued grow relationship from India and the United States of America. And so we're not about shutting doors. We're simply about bringing people in the correct way. And India has been one of our, if not the top recipients of the HB1 visas and our top pool for high talent in the STEM systems in America.
Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you very much.
To be a real threat to India or to the United States, as long as we have a meaningful dialogue between both the countries.
Dr. Solomon, about you? Your view? Opportunity?
Be smart. We are Jugaad number one. We want to. You know what we did? When the Ukraine war broke out, Russian oil was on a ban. India bought oil from Russia at $30 to $40 a barrel when the international was running at $80 a barrel. We first bought oil enough for our reserves, and after that we started refining and selling the same oil to US at $70 a barrel. So our processing cost was $5, so $35 to $45 we made profit on that. A lot of Indian petrochemical companies and the oil companies made huge amounts of money. So we care a damn what the world thinks because we do it our own way, and I think our Foreign Minister Jaishankar is a classic case of that. He says, I have no problem. I look after my country as much as President Trump looks after his country. We don't care. But I think the only request I have to Dr. Burns is, if you would request the US government, not necessarily President Trump, now that the Department of Education is shut down, I don't know who is in charge, to stop the second and third rate American universities from enticing students from India. They are spoiling the future of our kids. These are universities which simply exist on paper. The degrees are not worth the paper they are printed on. Our students here, they force their parents to sell lands and houses and take loans and send them to US only to realize that they are not studying in a Cornell or a Harvard or a UPenn or Columbia. They're studying in some godforsaken university which nobody has even heard of. If you can stop that, I think that will be the greatest blessing you can do for the Indian population, especially those from the rural areas and semi-urban areas. Thank you.
That's so nice. Right. See, India, they are manufacturing the electric cars and similarly you have cars from US, cars from other countries which are being manufactured. So say the basic model of Tesla today costs about 45 or 50 lakhs, and post tariff it may cost 70 lakhs. Okay, so if the same car costs 70 lakhs, it's an opportunity for Tatas and Mahindras to sell more of their electric cars. So in that way, it's a big opportunity for industries like automobile, where tariffs are actually reciprocatively giving them a cost advantage. The industries that will get affected is precious metals, I think minerals, diamonds, I think businesses in Surat. So these are some of the businesses which are exporting from India. I think these are the ones who get affected because the costs are increasing. So in that way, I think it is very sectorally defined, but most of it is quite an advantage to India in terms of the tariffs. It's a big opportunity that I would say. Thank you. You want to say something? Yeah.
So increase in tariffs, that is definitely directly going to impact the end patients, right? So any increase in tariff is going to impact US as well, US patients, and that is where my concern goes. And there we need to really look at how to balance out that.
Well, thank you very much. I would request you all to be here. Offline? Okay, yeah, that's great. So I would request still to be here. And Dr. Byrne, I would love you to be on stage. And, I would love you to come and give them a small memento. Okay, so please come on stage.
Before we wrap up, we are come and participate in our conference in Austin, Texas.
Yes. Thank you.